As a starting point of this video, let's look back to the case of B, who was Barak in our case. And Barak's axis is just the reverse of Alex's axis, which means he has zero endowments at this point. And his consumption of the commodity X increases when you go to the left, while in case of Alice, you increase the consumption of X when you go to the right. And his consumption of Y increases when you go down, while in case of Alice, you go up. So this means basically this: if you have 20 units of A, commodity X, A, commodity Y, for example, if you are at this point, OA, then Alice does not have anything. That means Barak has everything, all of these 20 units of the commodity Y. If you are exactly at the half point, that means Barak and Alice are sharing the commodity by half and half. And if you are at point, for example, let's assume this point is lies, at the 3/3 of the distance from OA to this point, or let's say K lies at the 3/4 of the distance of GE. This means at point K, this length is 1, this length is 3, so comparatively, the ratio is 3 to 1, GK over KE. That means Alice has 3 times more of the commodity Y than Barak. So if we have 20 units, that means 15 units is Barak. Alice has 15 units and Barak has 5 units. So Barak's quantity is when you go from E to K, basically, or OB to F, basically. The same thing is also true for commodity X. For example, let's say there is I don't know, 30 units of commodity B. If this is E is at the 1/3 of the distance from here to here, or let's say DK is at the 1/3 distance from, of DF. Length is 1/3 of DF. In that case, DK is 1, DF is 2. Note that Barak's commodity X increases when you go to the left. So since this is not longer, that means Barak has twice more commodity commodity X compared with Alice. So that means if you have 30 units, basically, Barak has 20 units and Alice has 10 units of it. So at OA, Barak has everything. At OB, Alice has everything. And in any middle point, for example, at this point, you can look to the relative distance of K from the axis that belongs to Barak and Alice, and you can see how much, how the commodity is shared between them. As you go left or up, Alice starts to get more of the commodity, more of the commodities. As you go down or left, as you go right and up, Alice got more of the commodities, and as you go down and left, Barak gets more of the commodities. So now let's look what will happen if we have, and then Barak's indifference curves are these ones. Those who are actually looking, who are actually looking to the, B basically, but let me show you in this way. These are the curves, so their concave side is actually looking to the point A. From the point of view of the OB, they are negative sloped. Just don't think that this is actually flipped. It should be just imagine how it will look like if OB was at this point, basically. And well, as always, when you increase the quantity of the x, which you do when you go to the left, the slope of IB curves gets smaller. Well, at this point, it seems as if it is going a little bit up. That doesn't happen actually. I mean, this is a mistake of this graph, basically. The curve should never go up. It should always have negative slope. A decreasing negative slope, but negative slope. So, what will happen if the point of endowments is k, at k? If it is at k, Barak has kf amount of the commodity x, which might be, for example, 20, and kd amount of the Alice has kd the amount of commodity x, which can be 10, and Barak might have ak amount of commodity y, which might be 5, and Alice might have kg amount of commodity y, which might be 15. Well, is it possible for Barak and Alice to reach to a better equilibrium simply by exchanging what they have? Think about this. This is the indifference curve of Alice. Initially, we are at k. If we move along this indifference curve, get closer to point R, we got above the indifference curve IB, which was the indifference curve of Barak at the point K. So, as long as we stay at the indifference curve IA and get closer to R, and even though we go down up to this point, we are still at this statement will be still be true. We are above IB1 curve, so Barak gets a higher utility and Alice gets same utility. And when we move on this curve, this basically means that Barak is getting more of commodity Y, but giving up part of commodity X to Alice, because when you go to this side, you go down. When you go down, Barak is taking part of the commodity Y that was belonging to Alice, and Alice is taking part of commodity X that was belonging to Barak. Since when you go to the right, commodity X is increasing for Alice and decreasing for Barak. It is also possible to increase commodity of Alice without decreasing commodity, the utility of Alice without decreasing utility of Barak. When you move along to IB from K to S and then to this point, basically. And actually, you might improve the utility of both of them if you go anywhere between this line and this line into the gray area. Any point in the gray area, think about any point in the gray area, it is below and the left side of the indifference curve of Barak, and it's above and on the right side of the indifference curve of the Alice. So any point on the gray area will give both Barak and Alice a better utility. So if they make an agreement, it would be if they make an exchange, that exchange will end up at this gray area where both of them are better off. But can we say up to which point? Up to which point they might make some exchange, and there might still be some room for them to improve their utility together without decreasing utility of the other one, or increase. Utility of the utility of both might increase as a result of that exchange. Up to what point this is a possibility, and at what point this becomes not possible anymore? Look to the point S. At S, wherever you move, if you move to the right or left, you got below the indifference curve of Alice and above the indifference curve of Barak. So both are worse off. If you move to this side or this side, actually, if you make sure that you move above or right side of the Alice indifference curve, then you definitely are on the above and on the right side of the Barak's curve, which means Barak is worse off. If you make sure that Barak gets a higher utility by making sure that you are moving to the left side or below the Barak's curve, in that case, Alice is worse off then, because now you move to the left side and down also with respect to Alice's indifference curve. So at point S, there is no possibility of Pareto improvement. So if you come to the point S, then there is no possibility of Pareto improvement. There is no possibility of Pareto improvement. That means you are at a Pareto efficient point. R is a similar point if you just look to it. Q is a similar point. P is a similar point. So these points are points where two indifference curve of Barak and Alice are tangent to each other. So once exchange process brings us to this line, this one of these points, then there will be no more exchange because we will be at a Pareto efficient point where improvement of utility of one of the agents is not possible without decreasing utility of the other agent. And the combination of these lines form a curve which starts from OA, goes all the way to OB. Actually, you cannot see it smoothly here. Those curves are contract curves, which means that the contract will be at a point between, any contract that is possible will be at that line or that curve, which is called contract curve. If you're at K, basically, the only area on the contract curve which creates a Pareto improvement is between R and S, which that means the contract will be between R and S. If it is closer to R, in that case, basically, Barak will be better off, and exactly at R, Barak is the only one who is better off, and Alice is just not worse off. And if you are very close to R, then most of the benefit of exchange process goes to Barak. If you are close to S, then most of the benefit of exchange process goes to Alice. So this is basically pretty much the contract theory. Now, when we form the utility curves of the unions and the employer, their appearance might look a little bit different. Actually, the employer case is much more different. The union case is more or less the same. Well, there are two variables the union is bargaining for. One of them is employment, the other one is wage. Union and the employer. From the union's perspective, the utility goes up when union gets a higher level of employment, and the utility also goes up when the union gets a higher level of wage. The workers get a higher level of wage. And when more people are employed, the utility of the union goes also up. However, union is kind of conservative union in this model, which means when it faces with decreasing the level of employment L1, basically, it wants to protect its workers, which means for a little bit decrease in L1, it rather wants a large amount of increase in the wage level. But when it comes to the other workers, it is not that much enthusiastic, basically. Basically, when union faces up with a decrease in wage, for a little bit decrease in wage of existing workers, it only accepts this if the employment level increases a lot. So it rather wants to protect both its what it has in its hands, wages and the employment, than increase one of the variables that contributes to its utility level, basically. We will talk more on this in the next part.